Tonight, we are pleased to chronicle the incredible legacy of an entire family. The story of the France family is one of courage, vision, and leadership. A leadership that helped shape the landscape of American motorsports for almost a century. Now, you're going to hear from the principals that are here tonight from the France family a little bit later on, and you're going to see an incredible video written by Herb Branham and done by NASCAR Productions in Charlotte a little later on in the show. But before we begin the evening, I'd like to introduce each one of our honored guests, as we always do each year at the top of the evening. And I would ask them, each one, to introduce us, to stand if they would and be recognized. First up is the IMSA chairman, the AMA Pro Racing principal. He is NASCAR's vice chairman and executive vice president. Please welcome Jim France. Jim, if you would stand. Next, the CEO of the International Speedway Corporation. She is the vice chairperson of NASCAR. Please welcome Lisa France Kennedy. And joining us this evening, the son of Lisa and the grandson of Bill France Jr. He now serves as the general manager of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Welcome, Ben Kennedy. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on what is a special evening. You know, people may ask, what is the International Motor Racing Research Center? Some people will say, well, because of the unique items on display, it is a museum. Others might say, well, because of the one-of-a-kind documents and technical information it has, it's an archive. Either way, you would not be wrong. It houses so many special items that are one-of-a-kind and some displays that you will see nowhere else in the world. In fact, let's tell you more about this unique facility as we direct your attention to the video screen. It was 1948 in this small upstate New York town that modern American road racing was born. The brainchild of an ambitious young lawyer and car enthusiast, Cameron Argetsinger.
My father had an MG, and he'd read about the great races in Europe, and he wanted to recreate a race of that type here in Watkins Glen. And he persuaded the village fathers. Here's this young man, 27 years old with an MG, who sold them on this crazy idea. Let's have a race right down the main street, past the courthouse, up the hill, around the gorge, and amazingly, 10,000 people showed up. And it was an immediate success. And they planned for the next year, and there were something like 50,000 people who showed up. But crowd control became very difficult. There were private owners who owned the land, and we really could not keep people back away from the road. In 1956, the present road track was built, and it was modeled on a European race course. And in 1961, the FIA awarded Watkins Glen the U.S. Grand Prix, and it ran here for 20 years.
Today, the Glen is the home of NASCAR's premier road race.
People used to say to my father, well, you weren't a NASCAR fellow. Aren't you sorry that sports cars are not the premier? And he said, nonsense. I'm so proud that NASCAR has now made it one of their premier races. And I think the NASCAR drivers like the road track.
Along the way, the local public library began to assemble a treasure trove of motorsports archives, photographs, and memorabilia. The problem? Where to keep it all, and how to make it accessible to the public.
John Bishop, who had founded IMSA, was concerned that a lot of the racing material that had been created over the years was being lost. People were throwing it away. So in 1998, which was the 50th anniversary of road racing in Watkins Glen, a number of people in the racing community, including the Collier family and John Bishop, got together and built the building we're in right now, which is about a 5,500 square foot purpose-built library. See, there are a lot of museums, car museums around the country, but we are unique. We really have the philosophy of a library. But unlike librarians that make you shh, we let people come in and they can have hands-on. We have material from all over the world. In this Motor Racing Research Center, we hope to be the Cooperstown of motor racing.
We absolutely aspire to emulate the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, although we will not be a racing Hall of Fame. We will be the unique center for archival records documenting the history of motorsports. So the future sees an expansion, and our governing council has been exploring options for expanding the specialized archival space that we're going to need, as well as our visitor services space here at the center. We've now filled the facility that was built 20 years ago, and next we need more specialized archival storage space. This is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on annual memberships, we rely on a couple of fundraisers, and for large collections coming to us, we ask for contributions to our endowment fund so that in perpetuity, we'll be able to care for those collections appropriately and make them available to the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, every time I come here, I learn something else, something unique about this facility, this archive, and not only the displays. Last night at dinner, Tom was telling us, he said, you could do a bet you didn't know, for years and years and years. For example, when people come from Europe and all over to do research on the history of motorsports, it's not just road racing, not just what happened here in the Glen of Watkins Glen of the Village. It's all over the world. You can pick up one-of-a-kind items. For example, there is a handwritten letter that was sent to the Mexican Grand Prix. It was a contract, two-sentence contract from Sterling Moss that said, "I will come race in the Mexican Grand Prix for $2,500. You will have to pay me $2,500, even if I am kidnapped. You still owe me the money." Signed, Sterling Moss. And that is in the archive. So you got to go by, and that's what you're supporting tonight, is those treasures that are in the archive of the International Motor Racing Research Center. Now it's my pleasure to welcome the President of the International Speedway Corporation and the Vice Chairman of the International Motor Racing Research Governing Council, John Saunders. John?
Well, good evening, everyone. This year marks the 70th anniversary of racing at the Glen. And as previously noted, in 2018, we also celebrate the 20th anniversary of the International Motor Racing Research Center and its service to the motorsports community worldwide. Back in the mid-90s, the growing collection of motor racing materials were housed in the Watkins Glen Public Library and had become unmanageable. The idea of a motor racing library and research center came out of discussions between Gene Argensinger, John Bishop, and others. And so, after an extensive capital campaign, the research center was constructed adjacent to the public library in the village of Watkins Glen. It opened to the public in 1998, a fitting tribute to the 50th anniversary of racing in Watkins Glen. Now, our mission of the Research Center is to preserve and share the history of motor racing, all series, all venues, worldwide. Chartered as a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation, the center is supported by donations and has never carried any debt. And while it has been steadily building an endowment, even as the collection under management has grown exponentially. The Research Center serves many segments of the motor racing world. The very dedicated staff have amassed an unparalleled collection of data, periodicals, books, and three-dimensional objects documenting the history of our great sport. Inquiries from collectors and researchers routinely are received from around the world. Racing enthusiasts and tourists who flock to our area for our races, our state parks, our lakes, and our vineyards stop by for a visit. The Research Center gives them an historical context to understand the importance of motor racing, and especially what it has meant to the community of Watkins Glen. Beginning in 2014, the idea of awarding an individual or a group who has made outstanding contributions to the sport was conceived and named in the honor of Cameron Argensinger. Cameron brought motor racing back to upstate New York after World War II, and in 1948 started road racing through the streets of Watkins Glen. We have been honored to present this award to stellar members of the motor racing community, some who are with us tonight. Thank you, Chip and Roger, for joining us. So on behalf of our governing council and our chairman, Bobby Rahal, who could not join us tonight but sends his regrets, I want to welcome all of you to this wonderful event as we recognize Jim France and the France family. So enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And you mentioned our chairman of the International Motor Racing Research Governing Council was Bobby Rahal, who couldn't be here, but he sent a message. Let's hear from him.
Hi, as chairman of the International Motor Racing Research Center here in Watkins Glen, I want to welcome all of you to this great evening. I have to say I'm very sorry that I can't join all of you tonight due to commitments overseas, but I know it'll be a fantastic evening, and I particularly want to welcome and honor Jim France and the entire France family for everything they've done for motorsports for the last 70 years or so, and what tremendous recipients of the Cameron R. Argensinger Award. We're very proud to have you with us tonight, and I just want to wish all of you a great evening.
Thank you very much, Bobby. And we do want to remind you, by the way, as we get ready to break for dinner this evening, the silent auction is ongoing outside. And for those of you outside who are unable to hear, there are some incredible items, packages, race packages, Daytona 24, Rolex 24 Daytona. There are autographed helmets from IMSA drivers, NASCAR drivers, IndyCar drivers, even one from the medal-winning women's bobsled team. All kinds of special packages available out in the silent auction, and they're going for great bargains. And so they're available during our break if you want, or even the evening. That auction will end at 9 o'clock, by the way. We will have that ending before the program is over. At this point in time, it's my pleasure to welcome for our invocation the Reverend Michael Hartney. Reverend?
We gather tonight for this 5th annual benefit for the International Motor Racing Research Center. And this year, as others have said, we honor a family important to the racing history of Watkins Glen and the United States. But before we do, we must pause first to remember another person whose contribution to racing history in Watkins Glen, the United States, and the world will not soon be forgotten. Dan Gurney. He died in January this year. He offered his greeting to this dinner last year via a recorded video. The world lost a great driver and a friend of motorsports. May he rest in peace. We remember the brave men and women who have answered the call to serve our country, many in places of war and danger tonight. May God protect them. And every year in this invocation, I'm reminded painfully that the ugly sin of racism continues to infect our country every day. May God help us to see our sisters, our brothers, and the little children as full and equal human beings, deserving of God's love and protection. And then, our celebration tonight. 1948, 70 years ago, was a very important year. Important because in November, Harry Truman upset Tom Dewey of New York to continue as the 33rd President of the United States. Important because in July, the Olympics were restarted in London and Idlewild Airport opened. And because in May, the State of Israel was recognized. And because in October, Cameron Artgetzinger organized the first post-war race in the United States down the main street of Watkins Glen and up through the Watkins Glen State Park. And important to me, at least, I was born. But most importantly, because in February 1948, Big Bill France corralled the racing promoters of the day to support the formation of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing. And the rest, they say, is history. He helped them envision a movement that would spread throughout the world. We appreciate it. Centuries ago, my boss gathered his disciples on a beach on the Sea of Galilee. He had a beach moment with them. He helped them envision a movement. The France family had a beach moment too. And from that Daytona Beach has grown the greatest motor racing franchise in history. It's the France family we honor tonight. Now, with thanks to Almighty God and Darrell Waltrip, it's time for the pace car to turn to the pits with his immortal words that seem to begin every cup race. Boogity, 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 let's go racing.
I love it, Reverend. You bring it every year. It's absolutely. Folks, enjoy your dinner. We'll be back to begin the program. We're only going to take a very short pause, and we'll let you continue eating. We're going to get the program underway again in a few minutes so we can get through earlier tonight. Thank you. I know some of you are just getting served, so go ahead and continue your dinner. And we're going to get started with the program to try to move things along a little bit here if we can. Let me start by introducing some VIPs. Everyone here tonight is important to us or you wouldn't be here. We appreciate your attendance and support of the International Motor Racing Research Center. And here again, you don't have to stand. If you want to wave when I mention your name, please do so. Some of the special guests tonight, the CEO of IMSA, Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of NASCAR, Ed Bennett. The President of IMSA, Scott Atherton. And there's a large contingent of Argetsingers here, the Argetsinger family. If you would just wave, please. I know there's quite a few here tonight. Wonderful to have you all join us back. Thank you. The Managing Director for Chip Ganassi Racing, and what an incredible job he did with strategy in the Indy 500 for Scott Dixon this year. My friend Mike Hull. Where are you, Mike? The mayor of Watkins Glen, along with his lovely wife, Teresa, Sam Skimmets. From Penske Racing, the president of Team Penske. You know, it's interesting how you're known as your title until you get older and you have a son. And then he's soon to be known as Austin Cindric's dad. But right now is the president of Team Penske, Tim Cindric. We'll be introducing the captain a little later on, but some of their drivers here, three-time Indianapolis 500 winner, Elio Castroneves. the two-time Indianapolis 500 winner and former Formula One racer Juan Pablo Montoya. Son of a legendary road racer and current road racing car owner, Ricky Taylor. And I asked Elio how to introduce this fourth driver. He said, simply say, he is the one that carries Juan Pablo Montoya in the car. Welcome, Dane Cameron. Action Express owner, Bob Johnson. From Ford Performance, Mark Rushbrook and Kevin Groot. Road racing and now IndyCar team owner Mike Shank. The manager of motorsports communications for American Honda. What a great job he does. T.E. McHale. The chief operating officer of Honda Performance Development, Steve Erickson. Chassis builder, Bill Riley. The president of Bosch Engineering USA, Keith Andrews. The president and owner of Virginia International Raceway, Connie Nyholm. A couple of fellow television announcers, Justin Bell and Matt Yoakum. The technical director for Michelin North America, Ken Payne. And the marketing manager, she's also an engineer, by the way, from Michelin North America, Sarah Robinson. Always a big supporter of the International Motor Racing Research, senator from the 58th Senatorial District, State Senator Tom O'Mara. Team owner, Paul Miller. We have an entire table from the SCCA, but they are led by President and CEO Mike Cobb. Longtime road racer and great IMSA official, along with his wife, Lunette. Please welcome Elliot Forbes Robinson. Only NASCAR, only road racer ever showed up to drive in the Daytona 500 wearing shorts and flip-flops. They ushered him right out of the garage area and told him to put some clothes on, son. Longtime Porsche racer, along with his son Dylan, who's a rising star, David Murray. Team owner and driver, Wayne Taylor. His other son, Jordan Taylor, Max Angelelli, and Ringer Van de Zande. The president of Elmira Savings Bank, Mike Hosey. Schuyler County, New York legislator, Jim Howell. And representing Congressman Tom Reed of the 23rd Congressional District of New York, Allison Hunt is here. The president of Corning Incorporated Foundation, Karen Martin. Schuyler County Executive, Tim O'Hearn. And providing some of that wonderful wine, and is also a commemorative gift wine bottle you'll see on your way out, one of the owners of Lenora Winery, Gene Pierce. Thank you, Gene. The president of Corning Enterprises, Tom Tranter. The chairman and CEO of Hilliard Corporation, Jan Vandenblink. And the chairman of the SCCA Foundation, John Zuccarelli. Now, I apologize. Some of those other VIPs that are here that will be speaking tonight, I have omitted them as we'll be introducing them momentarily. And I apologize if we omitted anyone that's a VIP, or if you think you're a VIP, please stand and be recognized. I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, again, continue your dinner. We're going to go on with the program. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome the Vice Chairman of NASCAR and a great friend of so many in this room. Please welcome to the podium, Mike Helton.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and what a wonderful evening, and thank you and congratulations to the International Motor Racing Research Center for preserving so much history of our sport. The longer I think motorsports continues, the more important it is to preserve our history. So thank you for doing that on our behalf. You know, I enjoy explaining to new fans or particularly new employees that the character of our business today is a result of all the characters that blazed paths for us along the way and continued to build it today and left it in our hands to be good custodians of it so that we can pass it on. At dinners such as this, that character is never more apparent, and the personalities that are in this room tonight that we should continue to thank and pay tribute to are important to us. Tonight, the France family, Jim and his family, joined the likes of Roger Penske, Richard Petty, Mario Andretti, and Chip Ganassi in recognition in this group. I've got the honor to speak on behalf of both NASCAR and IMSA, even though IMSA's got us outnumbered tonight, Ed and Scott. But it's my pleasure to be able to congratulate and say thank you to the France family. This room is full of dynamic personalities, as Jerry just introduced some of them. And those personalities have and will continue to make great impact on the motorsports industries for many generations to come. And they're competitive personalities. But in all sports, and particularly motorsports, those are the personalities that our fans grow to love and follow. And it's those personalities that are the very face of all of us in the motorsports industry, and they come from pit road and victory lane. And every form of motorsports rely on those strong personalities and their involvement to make our sport popular. But I know from firsthand knowledge that tonight's recipients would rather be well below the radar. But their impact in the motorsports industry on a global basis has steadily grown for over 70 years. And Reverend 1948 was a wonderful stretch. But for over 70 years and now 4 generations of leadership, the France family's efforts behind the scenes in all motorsports is a solid foundation for us all. It was the vision and perseverance to get it right from the start that Bill Sr. had. And it was reading the moments and adapting to change to grow that Bill Jr. taught us all. But that DNA lives strongly today in Jim France, Brian France, Lisa Kennedy, and now Ben Kennedy. So it's especially an honor for me on behalf of NASCAR and IMSA to that family to say on behalf of all the families and the employees that you have made part of your family on the quest to get the motorsports model right for everyone, to say thank you, congratulations, and how proud we are to work alongside with you. And on a personal note, Jim, I consider you one of my best friends. But I know for a fact that everybody in motorsports, whether it's open wheel, sports car, motorcycles, or stock cars, has a friend in motorsports through Jim France. Thank you and congratulations.
Well said, Mike. I totally agree with regard to Jim and the family here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of Watkins Glen International, Michael Printup.
Sorry, Gary, he didn't take long enough. Gary said, keep it short, print up, because I'm sitting 2 tables away. Good evening, and thank you. We're really proud to sit here in front of everybody this evening on behalf of Watkins Glen and recognize the France family. You know, when I think of the France family, and I've been with this with ISC for 18 years, leadership, stewardship, mentorship, creativity, innovative, and visionaries. To take a step back and revisit what here in Watkins Glen was so important to me and our team, we have a lot of team members here this evening, of what Corning did and what Jim Riesbeck did, particularly getting ISC involved, was Jim looked to advertise sunglasses and made a few phone calls around, ended up with Jim Foster, ended up with the CMO of Wrangler back in the day, and finally the family, Bill, Jim, kind of put it all together and then made a astounding statement of we need to expand in the Northeast. And so here we sit today after the track went bankrupt in 1980, and they formed this partnership, this unbelievable, creative, innovative partnership to take over Watkins Glen. So in 1986, after a few years of grass cutting and a few years of getting the place back up to speed, Corning Incorporated saved the old racetrack after 5 years of being down, and created it with the France family, only with that vision. And that's an astounding vision to be that partner. The vision with the few locals that started in 1948, as previously mentioned, really got the racing going, but the continuation with the France family kept it moving. So we take to expand the motorsports here in the Northeast, and the France family had the vision to do it. Bill Jr.'s career, after serving as VP for 6 years, his father appointed him to lead NASCAR. When his father retired in 1972, Bill led a regional NASCAR sport and created it in a world-renowned sanctioning body, and even promoted motorcycles and racing, as Mike said earlier. Bill Jr. had his fingers on the pulse. He continued his father's footsteps by fostering growth in the Daytona 500 and the Daytona 200 motorcycle race. His legacy lives on forever. Mr. Jim France was side by side with his brother. In 1959, Jim was working for his father at 14. With his brother Bill, they inherited control of NASCAR and ISC upon their father's passing in 1992. And as a member and for a time secretary of board of directors, NASCAR, Jim served influentially as a partner with his brother through the latter's retirement in 2000, and as NASCAR CEO and chairman of the board in 2004. Bill was quoted about his brother once as saying, "I explained in 2000 that, the singular prominence withstanding, the two of us jointly guided NASCAR and ISC. Jokingly, he added, in the past we'd have board meetings in the hallway. My brother and I would shoot the breeze for a few minutes, and I'd call it a day." Jim, as you know, founded Grand Am Road Racing Association in 1999, most recently created what we know today as IMSA, and that's why we sit here today. IMSA in Watkins Glen is synonymous with the France family. And merger was the most single calculated expansion of sports car racing in the world. And here we are today, all here because of Mr. Jim France. His vision, record crowds, record OEM engagement. Thank you, IMSA, Scott, and Ed. All right here. We're pretty proud of being in Watkins Glen and having the France family involved with what we do. A creator, a mentor, an innovator, and a leader. We look forward now, as time passes, with Lisa as our CEO and ISC, Brian heading up NASCAR and doing wonderful things for this sport across the country. But Lisa continually fosters new fans with our team members, new corporate partnership, new strategies. Our CEO is continuing what her grandfather, father, and uncle did and do every day. Create, mentor, innovate, and lead. I'm a part of this group, and I'm proud to be a part of that group for those reasons. Lisa has inspired the IS team to think out of the box. Think about Kansas, what we've done there, what she did there, what the team did there, in our real estate and casino holdings at that facility. Daytona International Speedway, the first stadium built for motorsports right here in North America, nowhere else in the world. In our real estate, for example, of our mixed-use property in Daytona, known as Daytona One. And the list continues. Again, creator, leader, and visionary. When I think about Lisa and the Glen, I'd first like to thank her for her continuing support, because we've had major investments up here that have kept this racetrack viable, proceeding forward, and moving as a leader. The investment, approximately $57 million over the last 12 years, in private dollars invested in WGI. This is Lisa's vision. This is how we keep going in the ISC world. New paving, new media center, new grandstands, new viewing decks, and the list goes on and on. Her leadership has transcended a racetrack into the future, into our community here in the Southern Tier, and we jump with our strategic plan every year with Lisa. When you have a leader with vision and creativity and drive, and if you know Lisa, drive is not fast. Drive is constant. Constant stewardship, constant innovation, and as we say in racing, as I learned way back with Roger, 1996-97, second place is the first loser, and Lisa likes first place. I'd like to thank, on behalf of Watkins Glen International, all our team members that are here tonight, for everybody, Ben, the next generation. We appreciate the France family. We understand your innovative creativity, and that has led us here today, so thank you very much.
Well said, Michael. I need to back up just 1 second and apologize. We talked about VIPs. You cannot omit someone who has won 6 national championships as NASCAR Modified Series driver and is currently a member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. When you pulled in outside and parked, you saw his car there, and the irony is that car was prepared and brought here by people who prepared his arch rival's car when they were racing, Richie Evans. Please welcome tonight Jerry Cook. Where are you, Jerry? Hall of Famer. My apologies, Jerry. Now we're going to hear from a future Hall of Famer in just a little bit, and Roger Penske. But right now, let's check in with a longtime friend of the Sahlens family. Please welcome Will Nonamaker.
Thank you. It's an honor to be representing the Sahlens family tonight. The France and Sahlens families share many similar passions, qualities, and values. And when I think about Jim France and Joe Sahlens in particular, it's very evident that both share a passion for racing. But when you look at the values that both Jim France and Joe Sahlens share, I think of the qualities of loyalty and respect for tradition. And from my own family's experience through the years, I reflect back to when my family raced in IMSA in the 80s. And as you would be unloading your race car at the track, you knew the race weekend was ready to begin when you saw John and Peggy Bishop's iconic motorhome parked for the weekend. Now, flash forward 20 years and you looked around at the track, and the motorhomes changed from what John and Peggy had had. Motorhomes had 2 and 3 slide outs, right? That's all the rage. But as Jim France looked for a track RV, he did not go out and buy himself one of these new age motorhomes. No. Instead, what meant most to him, to Jim France, was to have that very same iconic motorhome that John and Peggy Bishop had drove 20 years prior. That's loyalty back to the Bishop family, and respect for IMSA tradition. For me, that motorhome is what sums up Mr. Jim France. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier this year we were able to meet up with some friends of the France family. And as we direct your attention to the screen, here are a few shout-outs we recorded.
Jim, congratulations on this award from everyone at Corvette Racing. Some of our greatest moments, some of our greatest achievements have been because of you and at your great facilities. So on behalf of everyone that we associate with, I want to tell you, well-deserved congratulations.
Hi Jim, Lee Diffie here. Firstly, congratulations. I mean, everybody knows what you and the France family have done for the sport of motor racing, but for you and I, our history, of course, goes back to the Grand Am, the Rolex Sports Car Series days, and in particular the Daytona prototypes. And you know, I have very happy memories about your determination, your dedication, your vision, your spirit, particularly with the Daytona prototypes, to not only introduce them, but to make them work. And it was really rewarding to share that, to be a part of that with you, and to watch it grow and call some amazing races that we all enjoyed. So again, congratulations on the award, and thanks to you and your family for everything you've done.
Everybody in our sport who's been here very long, 1981 for me, has a Jim France story. And in 1994, we were lucky enough to beat the prototypes and win overall here at Daytona in a GT Nissan. Well, my teammates, Butch Leitzinger and Scott Pruitt, had to catch a flight. I don't think they know we were going to win. So as I came off the trophy stand holding that great big trophy, a person came up and said, "Mr. France would like to see you in his suite." I didn't know what to do. I thought at first I might be in trouble. But as I got there, I found a very personal, very gracious Jim France that wanted to congratulate us on a great effort to win the race. That moment has stayed with me for my 48 years in the sport.
Hey Jim, congratulations on this great award. You and the France family have been really personal friends of mine for a long time, over 30 years. And you single-handedly are the reason why sports car racing exists the way it does today. This is a great field. We got great cars, great drivers, and great racing. And that's all on your shoulders. So congratulations and great success going forward.
Our next speaker actually won at Daytona on 2 wheels. He was supposed to. It was a motorcycle. It's not a trick question. Please welcome the 1972 Daytona 200 winner. Yeah, he was signing his books outside. Here is Don MD. Don?
Thank you, Doc. I'm in awe of the luminaries and legends of auto racing in the room here tonight, and if you'll indulge me for just a few minutes to talk about motorcycles, because it's been a big part of the France story as well. But as Doc said, I won the race myself, but probably a better part of the story is my father won the race on the beach in 1948, just as Bill France Sr. was getting NASCAR started. He was still promoting races and got the race going there. But I've had a chance to know Jim since my racing days in the 70s, and to all of you from the France family, just congratulations for all that you've done for motorsports, and particularly from my viewpoint, the motorcycle world. The one thing I do think that is we would all have in common, whether you're from any of the forms of auto racing here and motorcycles, is we all know that any kind of race you go to, you want to win every race. But Daytona what's so different about that is I think what Daytona has is that Daytona was a race that you need to win. And I think anybody that is a driver, a motorcycle rider, a car owner, crew chief, anybody, you want to have on your resume that we won Daytona. And I think that really is something that we all share. And I was trying to figure out tonight maybe what I could add to the program that you don't already know about the Frances and Jim. And it's the impact, particularly I know in motorcycling, that Daytona, it's like you were just always getting ready for Daytona. No matter what race you were at, you were all just getting ready for the next one. And it was absolutely our premier race to win, and one that you needed to win. And some of the riders that have won it through the years went on to become world champions. Kenny Roberts, and Eddie Lawson, Wayne Rainey, Freddie Spencer. Others won our national championship. But my goal and my need to win Daytona wasn't quite as lofty as all of that. But it's some things that Jim and the rest of you might even not know how you impacted even one town, which was San Diego, California, which is where I grew up. And so my father wins the race there in 1948. And later, as I was born and kind of growing up, I don't know how he kind of saw that where this was going to go with me, but it seemed like all of the friends that he had, there was Ed Kretz, who was the winner of the very first Daytona 200, was kind of a mentor of my father, and so they'd see each other quite a bit. And I remember being very little and my dad saying, Ed won the first Daytona 200. And then as the years went on, I was getting a little bit bigger. I remember once my folks running into Joe Leonard, who was a top auto driver, as most of you know. And Joe was from San Jose when he did his racing, but he started out in San Diego, and my folks knew him when he was just a teenager. And so my dad was careful to point out that now Joe won Daytona twice. Okay, so I'm trying to, I'm however, 5, 6 years old, I'm trying to think, why do I need to know this? But he's sharing this with me. And it went on to another rider in the San Diego area, and his dad, Brad Andres. And Brad won the Daytona 200 3 times, and his father, Leonard, tuned his motorcycles. They had a Harley-Davidson dealership. And one of the years when Joe Leonard won was also on the Andres Harley-Davidson. And so my dad was always wanted me to make sure I knew that Brad had won Daytona 3 times. And it keeps going, but it turns out that there was a rider named Ralph White won the race, and then even once I was racing kind of at the club level, Cal Rayborn won the race 2 times. So it turned out that more riders from the San Diego area have won the Daytona 200 than any other city anywhere. And so I didn't really ever think I would become a world champion or maybe even the national champion, but I just kind of wanted to be somebody in San Diego, and because you weren't anybody if you didn't say you'd won the Daytona 200. So it gave me a focal point that maybe got in the way of all those other loftier goals, but I was fixed on winning the Daytona 200. And my first try in 1971, I got close. I was 3rd, racing for the BSA company, and. But the Japanese brands started getting very serious about AMA racing and Daytona, and Yamaha fixed me up with a good bike. And in 1972, I was able to win the race. And so it was a great thrill. We're very proud of the fact of being the only father and son to this day to have won the Daytona 200. And it's and Jim, it's just something that I just wanted to bring here, was the idea that I just know even my life would have been so different had I just won some other races. But here I am, 46 years later, being invited to fly out here from California, and all the other things that I've done have kind of vanished away, and it's the Daytona 200. And so it's the impact that you all have made in the motorcycle sport is fantastic, and it's just been something I can't say enough about. But and then your other. Your dad got all that started, but of course your whole family has continued on through the years, and I know you personally very involved in the flat track races, and I think that maybe part of your success was knowing the idea that it's a pretty narrow little state down there in Florida, and to draw the kind of crowds that you need to draw from, they had to come from all over. And so rather than just having a race on Sunday, you've created bike weeks, and you have, there was always the short track races that were in the Memorial Stadium, and all the things that you've done around town, and alligator enduros and all the other things that went with that. And so it's the premier event of motorcycling. Going to Daytona is just the rite of spring, and it gets the motorcycle business going. And you've just have done so much, and I'm just thank you for the few minutes to congratulate you on everything and say that. So thank you.
Thanks, Don. And folks, we direct your attention back to the screen for a few more shout-outs from friends of the fans of the France family.
Congratulations, Jim, on this fantastic award. Well deserved, actually well deserved to the entire France family. What you've actually done for motorsport, and now obviously with IMSA, world motorsport, is truly amazing. But just something came to mind as a story. I remember we were at one of the tracks and there were a group of fans and they were talking about the series and they were just, you know, how excited they were. Look at the GT cars, look at the prototypes. And there was this solitary figure standing there just in a rain jacket, watching the cars go around. And it was you. And I remember thinking in that moment, if those guys had only known that the man that really had determined the destiny, along with a great team, of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, they would have been blown away. They just thought you were another guy who was an enthusiast and had a lot of passion for sports car racing, and they'd be right, wouldn't they?
Hi, Jim. Congratulations on your award for outstanding contribution towards motorsport. You and your family have done a tremendous job, not only at the Daytona International Speedway, but all the circuits and racing that you guys are involved in. And I'd like to say not only thank you to that, but also thank you for allowing me to drive with your team, with Hurley Haywood and JC France. Many years ago, I can recall when you guys called me to test the first Daytona prototype up in Indianapolis at Putnam Park. No bodywork on the car yet, but it was a thrill to get involved, see the development of that car, be involved in the development of that car, and then come here to race at the Daytona 24-hour. Again, thank you and congratulations on your award.
Congratulations to the France family on such a prestigious award. I can't think of anyone more deserving than you folks. From the birth of NASCAR to what you've done for all forms of racing. For guys like myself that have been able to live the dream because of all of your hard work. Congratulations, all the best.
Jim, congratulations. You and all the France family have done amazing things for motor racing, especially here in America, so thank you very much.
All about the speed, huh, Juan Pablo? All about getting in and getting out quickly. And I'll just leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president of ACUS FIA, George Silberman. George?
Good evening. I can think of no person or group more fitting to receive the Argetsinger Award for contributions to motorsports, and I mean all forms of motorsports. ACUS FIA is made up of the 6 major sanctioning bodies here in the United States, and all 6 have been profoundly affected by the France family over the years, continuing to today, and certainly for the foreseeable future. Jim France is often portrayed as the member of the France family who quietly works in the background. However, when he speaks, the room hushes. It doesn't matter whether it's a corporate boardroom in Daytona, an ACUS board of directors meeting, or a room full of flat track motorcycle racers. In a candid moment a few years ago, when he was wrestling with some of the challenges of the reunification of sports car racing, and trying to keep motorcycle racing from going over a cliff, he told me that his father came to mind. Big Bill, as most of you know, was involved in fostering many different types of racing, from a relationship with the Organization for American States to bring Latin American drivers to race at Daytona, to sending Winston Cup cars over to compete at Le Mans. Jim told me that he was following the same path, but in his own way, and he thought his father would be proud. Globally, Jim and the France family help keep the International in Daytona International Speedway, in Watkins Glen International, in the International Motorsports Association, and in so many other things. I think the international flavor of the Sahlens 6-hour this weekend is just one indicator of many. But tonight, remember also that just like most of us in this room, the France family are at heart race fans as well. I'll never forget the huge smile and the sparkle in Jim's eyes when he witnessed his nephew, Ben Kennedy, win a NASCAR race at the iconic Bowman Gray Stadium, a place steeped in France family lore, and when he stood with Lisa and Ben in Victory Lane that night. I'll share one other thing with you as well. Jim doesn't like long presentations. So Jim, Lisa, Ben, on behalf of all of the forms of motorsports represented by the ACUS and so many beyond, let me simply say, congratulations on this award, and please continue to do all the great things you do to advance the sport. Thank you.
Well said, George. And in keeping with the tradition, many times I've hosted a NASCAR awards ceremony at the Waldorf in New York and in L.A., and Bill France Jr. always would come to me and say, Doc, you got 29 minutes to get us out of here. He said, we're burning daylight. I said, it's dark, Mr. France. He said, we're still burning daylight somewhere. So I'm hustling, Jim. I really am. Ladies and gentlemen, how about directing your attention back to the video screen for a few more shout-outs?
Hi, Jim. Congratulations on the reward at Watkins Glen. I really truly believe that you deserve it, because if I think about what you have done for sports car racing and your heart being into our kind of racing, I have to say really appreciate it. I like your enthusiasm and I like your tenacity in order to get the sport really there where you want to have it. Again, congratulations, enjoy the evening.
Hi Jim, and congratulations on the wonderful award. To a guy who's so unassuming and you wouldn't really know who he was, you have done so many incredible things for the sport, for motorsports, for sports cars, across the board. And it has been even more pleasure for me knowing you as my friend, getting that opportunity to drive for you and your team at Daytona and then Sebring. We still should have won that race instead of finishing second, but from the bottom of my heart, congratulations, well deserved, and I certainly hope that you take a moment and realize what an incredible, truly incredible family and person that you have been backing all these great years of racing.
Congratulations on this well-deserved award. Your vision and leadership has taught all of us what it's like to be a true leader, and it's an honor and privilege to come to work every day and represent you and your family. Congratulations again.
We are fortunate here tonight to have in the audience two of the past four recipients of the Cameron R. Argetsinger Award. Let's talk to the inaugural winner of this award, legendary car owner Chip Ganassi, who was the first one to walk on the stage here and sit with us and talk about how special this archive is. I think there is a microphone on your table, Chip, in the center vase there, and we would like to ask you if you would like to comment on this night and what it means to have the France family honored.
Thank you, Jerry. Is this on? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. I first met the France family about 1970. I was 12 or 13 years old, and I had the honor of serving Big Bill and Bill Jr. and Jim and one of their team owners from NASCAR. I had the honor of serving them dinner at a hunting camp in Pennsylvania. So I go back quite a way, and obviously, I'm not going to repeat everything everyone said tonight. What I want to say is this: I think that in today's world of these sort of people that come along like Roman candles, and they're famous and they're not, or they work hard and then they don't, and they, people seem to have shorter careers these days, and the one thing I want to say about the France family is that the word steady comes to my mind, because whether it was Bill Sr. down to Bill Jr. and Jim, or to Lisa and Brian, and now on to Ben. Ben, just keep in mind, steady's the word. And your family's been very steady over the years. in a custodial capacity of this sport, which I think is the best anybody could possibly do in any business that survived so many years and so many ups and downs in the economies around this sport that we all love. And so I want to say congratulations to the entire family, and look forward to many more years of your leadership. Thank you.
Well said, Chip. And now the 2016 recipient. It's been a pretty incredible career for this as a car owner, former track promoter, former track owner. This year, his teams went on to win an unprecedented 17th Indianapolis 500. If you count them up, he has won 6 national titles as a NASCAR car owner, between owners' championships and drivers' titles. And a couple weeks before that little race at Indianapolis, he was voted and will be inducted in 2019 into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Let's welcome Roger Penske.
Jerry, thank you. And, you know, tonight when I stand here, and obviously Chip and I have gone along here together for many years, and you start to think about people, you know, who've made a difference in your own life. And when you go back and you think Cameron Argetsinger in 1948, you know, had the vision to bring road racing to Watkins Glen. And what's happened since then has been amazing, because so many tracks have been built and great road racing. But to see we're running here this weekend at a 6-hour race, and NASCAR will be coming back. So when I received this award, Jim, I would say this: it was a real honor. You get awards as you go along. The way we get older, I guess we get awards. Is that right for something? But anyhow, a pretty special award. And I want to thank the Argetsinger family for this, and certainly what Cam did with the research center and safety is amazing in our sport. But I have to go back and say that I go back generations, and probably 56 years ago as a driver, you know, racing in Daytona and racing sports cars. So I had the opportunity, we call about generations in the France family, to know Big Bill and to think about what he did for me. I remember I came down there and I was racing in Daytona, and my car broke down. He said, "Look, Roger, I'll give you $250. He said, "That's going home money." Well, I've been trying to get going home money every race we break out, but I can't seem to get it. So Big Bill was a visionary, and the Daytona Speedway, and certainly to me made a statement for NASCAR and what they've been able to do. But as I go through the generations, and I think about Bill Jr., certainly Brian, Jim, certainly Lisa, and now Ben, I really connected with them. And I'll tell you a story. We had the opportunity to buy the Michigan Speedway back many, many years, and I said, I really can't have a NASCAR race. We need to clean it up. We need to do this and that. I remember Bill Jr. came over to me and he said, "Listen, you're going to run the race the next weekend," and I did it. And it was the start of our Speedway career. But what went on from that was certainly the association that we had with the France family, and we had the ability to be a track owner, and we partnered. We partnered with our speedways. As you remember, we merged the Michigan tracks and our tracks in California, you know, with ISC. And I had the opportunity during that time to be on the board, and this is obviously business. And to me, I never was at a board meeting when there wasn't a France person thinking about how to make their track safer, how to take care of the customer, the fan, and take care of the car owners and drivers. And I can say that that really was the backbone of this family. And to me, when you think about that, that's gone through generation to generation. I remember Lisa many, many times, and to think what you have invested in Daytona. I mean, it's an amazing $400 million in a track in our sport. You know, it just won't happen. It's amazing commitment. You know, personal wealth, business wealth, but to me, it's a statement, you know, for our sport. And when you look at the generations, and Ben, I see you there, and I saw you as a driver and scratching your way up and getting in victory lane. Well, that's what we've all done in this sport. And I'd have to say that, you know, what your grandfather and the family members of France have done for our family and getting us in this business And the success that we've had is really a byproduct of some of the things that I see. And I think for you personally, great opportunity. But Jim, they talk you're the quiet guy, but I've heard you at those board meetings. You weren't so quiet. So I'm not going to tell some of the stories that you said. But, you know, for you, I take my hat off. You know, what you've been able to do in the sports car area here and the support of the entire organization in Daytona has been amazing. And I call you a friend. Obviously, everyone at the table here, I hope, are good friends. And to me, tonight is special for you. Cameron Argersinger was an icon early on. Your grandfather was an icon, obviously, Big Bill. And congratulations to you and the whole family tonight. Just an amazing accomplishment. And I know that the family is here to carry this legacy on, so congratulations.
Thank you, Roger. You know, the Cameron R. Argersinger Award has been presented 4 times before tonight. You've just heard from 2 of the recipients, in Chip Ganassi and Roger Penske. But how about words from the other 2, including the King, Richard Petty, and last year's honoree, Mario Andretti?
Richard, what did Jim France contribute to the sport of NASCAR?
Well, you know, you got to figure that he was sort of in the background all the time, but he was one calling a lot of the shots and still does. And he's done a heck of a job just not being the front man, but he's the one that made all the decisions and stuff. So well deserving of this award.
1 year ago, I was standing proudly before you to accept the prestigious Cameron Argersinger Award for outstanding contributions to motorsports. What a special honor, what a truly memorable night. There's nothing much better in life than being toasted by friends and colleagues who have the same love and appreciation for racing that I have. I'm sorry I can't be with you this evening as you pay tribute to Jim France and the entire France family, who so richly deserve all the accolades they will receive tonight. To have built NASCAR into the tremendous success that it is today was no small feat, as we all know. Starting with the vision of Big Bill, the France family had grown NASCAR into an exciting, fan-friendly, family-friendly sport, and always seeking to improve the product. Congratulations to the entire France family on all your professional achievements to date. You have earned the respect and gratitude of the entire racing community. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome war-renowned race driver and TV commentator David Hobbs.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and I'm not quite sure why I'm here, because, I mean, you've just heard it all from everybody. You got people like Roger Penske there, so eloquent, Chip Ganassi, then Mario. Pretty much everybody has said everything that could be said about the France family and their incredible dynasty, which has been amazing over the last, 70 years. And I really have so little to add. Obviously, the evening is supposed to end with a bang and a bit of a laugh and that sort of thing. Well, for the first time in my life, I find myself pretty much speechless because, I mean, it's all been said. But I do want to say that I probably met Big Bill before most people in this room did, and that was in 1962. In my first year as a professional race driver, I was driving a Jaguar XKE in Europe, and Bill asked my owner to bring the car over to the very first sports car race at Daytona, and he for the Continental 3-Hour in 1962. I'd been married 3 weeks, and I left home for 3 weeks, which went down really well. And of course, to get to Daytona in those days, you had to fly to New York from England. Our car was handled by the Cunningham Group. Actually, Briggs Cunningham Group handled the car. And my own car, which was a Lotus Elite, automatic Lotus Elite, which I'd driven very successfully that year, was going to be driven by a Scotsman, a young Scotsman who nobody knew much about by the name of Jimmy Clark. And he and I drove down to Daytona. Well, there was no 95 then, I-95, we came down on Route 1, which took a long time. Especially as about every 5 minutes we got stopped for speeding. There's all these cops in those really pressed shirts and those cowboy hat things they wear, and well, looking like Smokey the Bear, you know. And Jimmy got really pissed off with putting his hands on the roof and said, "Put your hands on the roof, son." But we eventually arrived in Daytona, and $600 later, and we met Jim's father, Big Bill. And Jim, of course, at the time was, 18? So he was probably sweeping the deck out the back somewhere. We didn't really associate with him. But Big Bill was, as Roger said, vision. You know, this is a guy that had massive vision. I mean, he'd start off with the races on the beach, and then he had, managed to get the speedway built on what was the edge of Daytona in those days, because now it's right more or less in the middle of town. But I mean, he was so welcoming because he really wanted to internationalize the Daytona Speedway. He didn't just want to have it for NASCAR, which of course at that time was just a fledgling group anyway, and still was very regional for the South. But he wanted to internationalize it, so he had a tremendous amount of guys came in. Sterling Moss was there, I was there, and Sahlens was there. A whole bunch of guys from Europe. And he was so welcoming and so entertaining. We were out every night. We went to receptions at Ormond Beach and Flagler Beach and Daytona. And everywhere we went, on the video screens, unlike today where it's all really high-tech video, because then it was just film. And there was all these gory crashes at places like Daytona, and people like Jimmy Clark, "What the hell are we doing here? We're going to get killed." I said, "We're not actually going to do the NASCAR race." Anyway, but I mean, he was so, I mean, we were entertained every night, and he was so welcoming. It was really terrific to speak with him. And of course, he's a very overpowering personality. I mean, now I'm 5'10". Then I was 6'1". But that's what happens when you get old. I mean, you just shrink, you know. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in my shoes. But Bill was huge and, you know, really overpowering. He'd grip you around the shoulder, give you a pat on the back, and send you skipping across the room. But the whole thing was awesome. It really was. And little did we know then, you know, what great strides Bill was going to make in American racing and international racing as well, because, you know, NASCAR has become a major sanctioning body. And, of course, Jim has done an amazing job over the last few years, starting with the Grand Am, and it all, you know, everybody was a bit doubtful when it started, but I mean, he pushed and persevered, and now we've got an event today, well, this weekend here at Watkins Glen, which is really one of the, you know, tremendous sports car series. I mean, you've got people like Wayne Taylor and his 2 kids. I saw Wayne on the plane today, and I showed him the blank piece of paper, which is going to be my speech tonight, and it's still blank. But I mean, really, you know, the field in IMSA now is absolutely extraordinary, and that's all down to the France family, obviously with the leadership of Jim. The last few years, I've known Jim. I didn't know him when he was 18 when I first came here, but I've known him since socially, and he picked me up off the floor a couple of times, but that was just because my knee gave out. But I just want to say, you know, I mean, obviously I shouldn't really be here because we've had people like Roger Penske, Chip Ganassi, Mario, everybody extolling the France family, which is very much deserved. And I really shouldn't be here at all, but I am. And Judy Stroper's dragged me here and said, "You've got to speak." She gave me 3 minutes. Well, I think I've been speaking for more than 3 minutes, but I've really enjoyed meeting your father, you, your other brothers, and it's just been an amazing career that you've had, and I just want to thank you, because I'm a sports car guy at heart. Although I did lead the Daytona 500 for a lap, the only foreign driver to lead the Daytona 500, and I was driving for Benny Parsons in his backup car in 1976. He and I drove in the BMW 3-liter CSL in the 24-hour. And part of the deal was that I was going to drive his backup car in the 500. I actually I finished 8th in the qualifying race on a Thursday. I thought, what the hell? 8th? That means I'm going to be on the 8th. I'm going to be in the middle of this lot of maniacs. So, and I was. We came off turn 4. You know, those old NASCAR cars in those days took a bit of getting those people. Because by the time you get to 3 and 4, you know, up to full speed, whatever it was then, 190 or something. And I come bollocking off turn 4, and I'm in the middle of the pack, and there is shit and destruction everywhere. I mean, the cars wobbling about in the wind, in the air, in the street, and there's blows bounce off the wall. You can smell the concrete, and you can smell the rubber where it's rubbing on the concrete, and the rubber where it's rubbing on the paint. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Anyway, I hit the wall, so it was all over. Not there, but I mean. But before I hit the wall, they had a caution flag, because in those days we had no radios. So I had a caution flag, and I'm out there leading. Because everybody else has gone to the pits. So, which is what we all should have done. I'm out there thinking, this is a piece of cake. Anyway, Jim, the whole France family, I want to thank you all so much for having me and allowing me to speak at such an auspicious occasion with such great people, Roger, Chip, and everybody else here, and I want to thank you all very much, and really enjoy the rest of the weekend, and you have really put sports car racing back on the map in this country, and I want to thank you for that, Jim. Thank you.
David Aubs, ladies and gentlemen, David Aubs. Now it is time to finally meet the evening's honorees. I told you at the top of the show, the story of the France family is one of courage, vision, and leadership. A leadership that's helped shape the landscape of American motorsports for almost a decade. Now, the video you're about to see was so well written by Herb Branham, narrated by yours truly, and produced by NASCAR Productions. Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the screen for the France family story.